kind of sitting back more. They're probably not going to look so good, are they? But I thought they were okay, Newcastle, really. They were onto a hiding to nothing, weren't they? Going there with Ronaldo having his debut. But it weren't too bad, I thought. First half, especially.
So,
yeah. But United, I mean, have United kept a clean sheet yet this season? I don't think they have they?
No,
they always seem to find a way to let a goal in, don't they?
It seems to happen. I mean, they're also maybe a defense that's still trying to get solidified, or a team, that's trying to get their defensive mids. There have been some injuries there. So I have to just interrupt really quickly here. I apologize. I hit the broadcast button, but somehow we weren't live.
What? For the whole time?
Until right now, we've been live for 1 minute now.
Oh, you're joking.
No, but I think it's recorded. I'm not sure. I'm going to get some more info on that. 1 second.
There's lots of comments.
Yeah, there were people in there. There were comments. So, but I don't know if nobody saw what we've been doing. So hopefully people got that content. If not, we'll figure something out. But we're just gonna power through this right now.
Oh
no! Let me just check. I know it's live now. Yep.
I missed all the fun. They missed my meltdown. Oh well, it doesn't matter. They have to wait until another day. It'll all be recorded though, won't it? Everything's recorded.
That's what I'm trying to find out from the guys that usually drive this ship. If it's recorded. Recorded. What do you say? Do you want to go back?
I'm quite happy to start again. I've got a couple of hours.
Me too. Whoops. All right. Let me.
Have you confirmed that nobody's got it?
Yeah. No, it's not recorded. All right. Let's start the show, everybody.
Are you going to put a message on Twitter? Telling people again, because they've probably all disappeared by now, haven't they?
I think we still have people in the chat, and people have been chatting and I've been responding. I just didn't realize that we weren't live, so I apologize for that. We are live now, so I'm going to just kind of get right to it. Get back to the first slide here. There we go. I knew it was going to end in tears one way or another, Nick. So apologies for the mix-up here. I really don't know why it didn't go live. All right. So welcome back, everyone. Here we are. Here we go. Twitter pricks are still on, so that's good. We're starting the show. We're restarting the show because I guess I hit broadcast, but I didn't hit go live, or start broadcast, but I didn't hit go live, or something like that. As you guys know, I'm not familiar with this machinery, so I appreciate everyone's patience and understanding here. Nick, we have a special guest today. I'm joined by a friend of mine from the southern shores of the world, Nick at Nick Triggerlips on Twitter. Welcome to the show once again. I apologize for the choppy waters to start.
We can't. There we go.
There you are. So welcome to the show, Nick. It's nice to see you. Thanks for joining me, and apologies.
Morning, everybody. Again, you missed a lot of fun. Actually, missed a lot of fun. Now, Gabe's disappeared. Here he is. He's back again.
My camera's flip-flopping, so I'm going to disappear for one quick second. But you want to introduce yourself? Say hi to everybody. Rubber Ducky's in the house now. So this is
where's my old mate Twitter Pricks? Is he still here?
Twitter Pricks has not left. Twitter Pricks is still here. We have some new friends in the house as well. We have FPL 7 Minutes, FPL DG Boy 88, Karan Raj, Akshat Dioli, Horde. Honestly, Nick, I think we picked up viewers thanks to my gaff here. Pavan R is here. They've been waiting.
We've been recording about 25 minutes, haven't we, so far?
Yeah, we have. It's a good thing. Honestly, I'm going to be honest. I have a short memory, so I don't remember anything we said. So it's going to be like the first time for me again. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Shams is in the house as well. Ignatius Bryan is in here. I think this is all going to work out for the best, Nick. I'm actually more pumped now than when we started, when we
I'm a bit more awake than I was half an hour ago.
So. Yeah, there we go. We're going to get this show on the road then. And go back to this. There, now we can see our faces. And get to this screen. So just for some housekeeping, we donate to charity, as you know. When we hit 1,000 subscribers, we donated $100 to the Heart Fund. This was inspired by Christian Eriksen episode in the Euros. And when we get to 2,000 subscribers, we'll donate another $100 to the Heart Fund as well. Thank you for all the subscribers. Thank you for all the haulers. Thank you for your patience with my bumbling hands and crashing the ship into the rocks. But we have it repaired. We have more viewers, and on we go. Just a little bit more housekeeping here. The last of our announcements. Still time to join our mini league. The code is what is that code? FG1XNB. The link is in the comments. First prize is a box from @ShirtLootBox. Check them out on Twitter. Second prize is the great book, signed copy, as long as it's not a digital, from Matt Whelan @FPL_obsessed on Twitter. Great guy. Go check him out. Good book. And then the third prize is a subscription to Fantasy Football Fix. And I was saying earlier, but the tool I use most in Fantasy Football Fix, obviously the price rises are good, but I like the passing heat map. It shows with the arrows, it shows all of the passes attempted by a player, and it just kind of shows their thinking, and then it shows also some tactical thinking there. So that's a great tool from Fantasy Football Fix. So Nick, we had a great discussion on this quote, and I'm sorry we lost that, but we're going to try to replicate it here. You want to do us the honors again and tell us for what the FPL philosophy of the week is.
Freedom is what we do with what's done to us, by Jean-Paul Sartre. I used to study Sartre. I never understood what he was talking about then, and I don't really understand what he's talking about now. Because I looked at this quote last night, and I'm trying to get my head around it, and I couldn't really work out what it was all about. But you can explain it, I'm sure. So,
well, I gotta be honest with you. You are doing an incredible FPL Mariner impersonation right now. When I come up with the philosophy of the week, he throws his hands up. He's like, I don't know what you're going on about, this bullshit game. It's your thing, so go do it. So yeah, the FPL philosophy of the week it's a little bit self-serving this week, I admit. So apologies for that, but it is. It specifically relates to people affected by the multitude of events this past game week, right? So Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Mikel Antonio, and Son, all casualties, while Cristiano Ronaldo and Romelu Lukaku are banging goals in. So that left many patient managers, right, with a situation on their hands that they had to resolve. So these moments these are like kind of the events that happen to us, right? Things that happen to our team, right? These moments of action, of response to those things that happen to us. So these moments of action, response to the cold tyranny of variance and of variance and misfortune. These course corrections for mistakes made are what define us as FPL managers. We should embrace these moments. We're going to look back on them and say, that's who I was as an FPL manager, whatever the outcome was. With that context around this FPL philosophy, Nick, what are your thoughts?
Well, the cold tyranny of variance, as you put it, has really screwed me over this week. You know, I've got about 6 players with red arrows, etc., or red for the next week, and I think it's all an opportunity, isn't it? You're right. The more problems we have with FPL, then the better managers do well, and the lesser managers kind of screw it up. So the more kind of injuries, sending offs, etc., probably the better in the long run. Although it makes life very, very complicated, doesn't it? But does give us problems to solve, and that's why we play FPL. I think to have some deep analysis, etc. So you saw in the first 3 or 4 weeks, it was all too easy. Everyone was getting 100 points, and no one was having any problems with their team. So it's when the problems start that we see who knows how to deal with them. So yeah.
I really love that perspective, because rather than banging our fists, right, when shit happens, we should be rubbing our hands together, because it's opportunity.
Good chance to bring in Semedo for me.
Yes,
I was struggling,
And he's I'm glad you brought up Semedo, because he will come up later, and he's like epitomizes that opportunity. He's somebody, his stats are so good, and he hasn't really popped yet. Marcel popped strangely this past week with 2 assists, that one crazy one. I think he had an XA of 0.02 or something like that. So a lot of people will be going to Marcel, and I'll be happy to consider Semedo instead. All right, now we are moving on to Mariners predictions. Again, we're gonna fly through them. We went through them already once, so we're gonna go through them really quickly here, especially this one, and then one more. This one we'll go through quickly for my sake. If I had known that the DCL was also going to be injured, I would have done DCL and Son to Damari Grant, Cristiano Ronaldo. Instead, I thought DCL would play, so I thought I'd be patient, and all I did was go Son to Jota. The predicted 2.5 goals for West Ham did not come to pass. Having Captain Antonio, I'm going to fly through this one. Basically, none of the predictions worked out. That's all there is to be said about this one. Next. Anything else to add, Nick?
Yeah, bad luck on captaining Antonio, and what a shocker.
What a shocker indeed, and a shocker I'd be happy to never... What's that?
What did you get for that? Was it -2 or -4 or?
-2.
-2.
And let's never bring that conversation up again, shall we?
I guess it only cost you 6 points, I guess, didn't it, really? Because he would have only got 2 points anyway, so...
True. It depends on what kind of mind fuck I have. Because if I compare it to what I would have done having known that DCL was going to be out, then it cost me over 30 points. So that's not so good. But the next matchup, predicting 2.5 goals, Liverpool over Leeds. Leeds defense is really going off a cliff. Home defense is ranked 3.8. It's at 3.8. It's ranked 13th. While Liverpool attack from the left, center, and right respectively is 5.0, 5.3, and 4.7. Leeds defense is batting on the decline. If Mane were a shadow of his former self, this could have been a really ugly game. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's very concerning that Leeds are at home. I mean, you can understand it if we went to Anfield, but at home losing 3-0 like that. They did get players sent off, though. I thought they didn't look too bad until the sending off. They were still pretty competitive. I think it was 1-0, wasn't it? Or was it? I'm not sure. I can't remember the score, but they weren't doing too badly. But it was really in the second half, wasn't it? It was Mane getting all those chances and etc. So it's kind of understandable, I guess. But even their other games, though, on all my metrics, pretty near the bottom defensively.
Yeah, and you did mention that the fixtures haven't been good, right?
No, the fixtures have been bad. I mean, last season they had Dallas, didn't they? And we all had Dallas. And we kind of got so many attacking points from him that it might have kind of glazed over all the deficiencies in their defense. We didn't really care because we were getting lots of attacking points from Dallas. But really, I think I've got Ayling this year, and really I'm going to want some attacking returns because I can't see too many clean sheets. Although easier fixtures, we'll see. They might be better.
Yeah, and the other thing I will say is that they've been struggling with rotation through injury, right? And they've been playing players out of position, defenders in central midfield, central defenders that just aren't very good. Now they have a red card and injury to deal with for this coming game week. I think the short term is definitely bleak for Leeds defense and could be whipping boys, in my opinion. I'm not sure. Do you see them as whipping boys as well?
Not really. Not with the
Not really.
fixtures. They should come right now. I'm hoping. I'm having to play Ailing this week, and things can change quickly, can't they? I mean, teams like Arsenal have been terrible, and I think they're going to turn it round as well. And it's too early to say. We've only had 4 weeks. Like we say, they have had tough fixtures and are sending off. And but I do think they might be slightly overrated, Leeds. They're a bit of a hype team, aren't they, this season? They did well last year, but we shall see. I think Rafinha is still worth having in your team, and possibly Bamford as well. But
if fit, Bamford would definitely be a consideration. That would be. I guess it depends on structure and all of that, of course. And you're right, their fixtures do turn, so it's hard to name them whipping boys when they have nice fixtures like that. You're not going to pile on assets on bad teams just because they're playing Leeds, right? So that's a good point.
Going a man down against Liverpool is always going to cause most teams problems, I think, isn't it?
Okay, moving on to the next prediction here. We have the Man United Newcastle game, 2.5 goals for Man United. Again, got that one right against Newcastle. What are your thoughts? Again, I'm going to let you go first on this one because this one's a personal one. I got a personal matter to settle on this one, Nick. So let's hear your thoughts first.
Well, as somebody who captained Ronaldo, I was a little bit concerned, to be honest, because the first half was shocking, and it was only like second minute of injury time that they scored. And if Newcastle had gone in 0-0 at half time, I think we'd have seen an entirely different match, So they got lucky in the end. Greenwood got one of his like weirdo shots that he does that the keepers can never seem to hold on to. And, they looked good in the second half once Newcastle had kind of given up. But they weren't that great, in my opinion. I think the score flattered them a little bit.
So, Nick, I am really grateful that that's the direction that you took with your analysis of this game, because I have a stat here, and it has to do with this fine-looking young gentleman right here who's on the beach. And I think this is where he played that match from this beach in particular, Nick. Because Woodman had an XG prevented in that game, in one game, had an XG prevented of -1.9, which means he... Go ahead.
So does that mean he let in 1.9 goals more than he should have let in?
1.9... that means, yes, so neutral, like 0, is he should stop he's basically stopping what he should stop.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like it's like 1.9 extra XG.
I'm glad you didn't ask me who it was, because I wouldn't have known who that was.
Yeah, I hope it's Woodman. It was like in Google Images, it was with a bunch of other Woodman photos. So I would just want to say, those saying that CR7 was the obvious choice, and anyone who went without is overthinking, should consider that little stat. XG prevented negative 1.9 in the one game.
I still think it would have been overthinking not to get Ronaldo, but Ronaldo was there, though, wasn't he, to pick up the pieces when Greenwood shot was parried. Ronaldo was in exactly the right place.
Yes, and he will be there. He will be there every single time. And there's actually a stat on Greenwood. Let me see if I can bring it up really quickly here. It's something shot creating actions. No. So I can't find it right now. It was on FBref, and you know how FBref has a ton of stats. So I'd have to go through the nitty gritty and pick it out. But I think Greenwood creates a shot with a shot more often than most players. So one of his, as far as shot creating actions go, which is basically an act like a dribble, a pass, or a shot that leads to another shot. He does dribbles that lead to shots, and he does shots that lead to shots. So that thing that he does with the way he shoots that causes rebounds is a thing with Greenwood. So I think that you can actually expect more of that. That being said, I still think it was perfectly reasonable thinking to not go with Cristiano, not jump on him if the situation didn't dictate. But anyway, that's my piece.
People who didn't get him still did okay anyway, didn't they? Most of them. So even though he got 2 goals, people that didn't get him still did okay, unless they captained Antonio, of course. But
thanks for that reminder, Nick. I really needed that one.
But anyone that captained Lukaku or Fernandez or Salah basically didn't lose too much ground, did they?
Yeah. So people, not me. It was awful for me, Nick. All right, moving on. Let's see. What do we got next here? Predicted goals 2.5 plus for Everton. Metric got that one correct as well. Everton home attack is 2.6, ranked 5th according to Mariners metrics. They are apparently on the downswing a little bit in terms of form. Look at their, what I want to highlight for the podcast listeners here is the zonal matchup, right? So Everton's attack on the left is at a 4.8 and on the right is a 5.0, while in the center is a 3.5. I think that's really interesting. And we'll talk about kind of like some of the mechanisms that get to that shortly. But I don't want to belabor this match too much, Nick, because I know you're not too happy about this one, are you?
Oh, I can't bring myself to watch it. That prick Gray scoring like that. No, I can't bring myself to watch it yet. I'll try at some stage, maybe. I probably won't actually. I'll just ignore it and pretend it never happened, I think.
Yeah, just watch the
because look, I just think if DCL was playing, we'd be looking at a couple of goals now. We'd have got a double pointer, I think, this week. And for it not to happen is a bit gut-wrenching, I think.
In your opinion, do you think the absence of DCL kind of favored Gray a little bit?
I don't know. I mean, he might have scored anyway, mightn't he? But I wouldn't have minded him scoring if DCL was on the pitch. But I think everything's designed to get the ball into DCL, isn't it? So I think he probably would have got more likely have got an assist or something, probably, if DCL was playing.
Yeah, I think he would have. He could have gotten something in that game. That's another problem.
Yeah, I know. I mean, Burnley away. I mean, yeah, he was one of the players I was expecting the most from. That was the most disappointing thing. And playing on a Monday night, I was quite confident. I was quite confident he'd start too, because every game it's like, he's carrying an injury, but he always plays. And then for him not to be there after being seen training for like 3 days. Was like, it feels like you've been hoodwinked by Benitez, and it feels like you've been robbed almost. So don't like it.
Yeah, it's a bad feeling. Well, let's just quickly. I don't want to linger on this too long, but I do want to show here the. This is a graphic from last week. Just kind of the way Benitez has set up the team. We have I've superimposed kind of the heat maps of Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin, Doucouré, and then Townsend and Iwobi. So we see on the right-hand side, just outside the box, Townsend and Iwobi occupying that space. Right behind them on that right-hand side is where Doucouré operates on the right side of central midfield. And then just to the left, both outside the box and inside the box centrally, to the left of Townsend and Iwobi is Dominic Calvert-Lewin, highlighted in pink. And then there's a gap where we have Damari Gray's heat map showing up, in the gap between Dominic Calvert-Lewin in the middle and then Richarlison on the left-hand side. And Rafa Benitez has designed this kind of like front four to play this way. And the way all three of Damari Gray's goals have come from the player on the left, or Rafa Benitez overloading the right-hand side by bringing the player on the left, Richarlison usually. He brings that player over to the right-hand side and then just leaves that left-hand side open, and then sends Gray running with pace countering through that side. So while this is working, like we mentioned last week, this is working in the short term. This is not a complex system, and opposing managers should be able to figure this out without too much difficulty. What are your thoughts on this kind of tactical scheme, Nick?
Looks quite interesting, doesn't it? But yeah, I'm just hoping that Gray stops scoring, basically, because I don't want to have to get in now, especially now his price has gone up, because you're putting yourself at a disadvantage to the people that have already got him, and you've already missed his points. So I'm not the sort of manager that goes chasing after points. I'd be looking elsewhere now. But what I like about that heat map, you see Calvert-Lewin's one there, how central he is, like great big blob in the middle of the penalty box there, sort of just shows what a good option he is, I think, when he's on the field.
Just on that, go ahead.
Can we just check people are still, are we still live?
We are still live. We have with your we're still live. We have people chatting here.
Can you let us know if we're not? Because in the comments.
Yeah, if there are any glitches, help us out, haulers. We need help from the haulers if there are any glitches.
I've got my eye on the comments there.
Fair enough. So okay, moving on. So the next slide is Chelsea. The Chelsea match against Aston Villa. Chelsea, their home attack is 2.4, ranked number 4. Attack, the zonal matchup in this one on left was 3.7, center was 3.8, right was 2.3, so a little less on the right there. And the metric got it right. Chelsea scored their goals, and what are your thoughts on Chelsea here, and Chelsea and Villa? What are your thoughts on both of these teams?
Those numbers, left, right, centre, etc., a lot lower than Everton's ones were in the last game, aren't they? But no, I watched most of the game, and Aston Villa looked good, I thought. I think Chelsea were flattered by that scoreline. Mings basically gave them a goal, and Villa were pretty decent. The tables I've got, I kind of had it down as being 2-0, and it was Villa put in quite a good display, I think. And Chelsea's numbers weren't that high for this week. Like teams like Arsenal, etc., had a lot better attacking statistics this week than Chelsea did. But I think it's defence, isn't it, where Chelsea really shine. They're just so solid. Yeah,
I mean, the one thing I'll say about the zonal matchup there is it takes into consideration it's not an absolute for the team, so it takes into consideration the opponent, and that's why the Burnley matchup, especially on the flanks, was a good one. So yeah, that's interesting, and we were saying the addition. The 3-0 scoreline does not reflect the game. Leon Bailey is becoming more involved, more part of the team. He's starting to look more lively. I think this team at Aston Villa, to your point, will be getting better as the season progresses. But I think Chelsea may have, just for the whole season, that this may be a thing where they have somewhat depressed attacking stats, but the addition of Romelu Lukaku turns the 1 and 2-0s into 3-0s. What are your thoughts?
They're pretty clinical, aren't they? Because for now, Lukaku only had 2 shots the entire match, but he got 2 goals, and I think that's going to be something we see more. Not like last season where Werner was having like 20 shots and none were going in. But I think they did create more with Werner, though. He was quite good for creating last season. They were quite fast and had a bit more attacking flair, I think, last season than they have this season. But it's still early days, isn't it? I mean, Havertz and even Chilwell hasn't played yet, so they're still warming up, I think.
And I think that's something to note for many teams. While patterns are beginning to emerge, they're still warming up. And I still think Werner is going to become quite the creator for the team. I think he will get double-digit assists. He got double-digit fantasy assists last season. I think he had 10 fantasy assists. So he'll only build on that if he gets regular playing time. And then it's that rotation. I think that's the one thing that could dampen that.
Yeah, there's going to be lots. I mean, it's a long season for Chelsea. They're going to be in all the competitions, and it's going to get interesting now. We've got the Champions League back. See what's happening with all these teams.
Indeed. Okay, moving on to the next matchup here. We're going on to the clean sheets, predicted clean sheets, and we'll stay with Chelsea. Obviously, they got their clean sheet against Villa. Chelsea's home, home defense FDR is 1.8. It's ranked second this week. They are a bit on the decline, maybe through some tougher fixtures. In my opinion, they only have one more tough fixture before they're, at least from a defensive perspective. Actually, no, just from both. One more tough fixture before they get in a really nice patch of green. Aston Villa, the zonal matchups for Aston Villa defensively, quite poor. 3.2 on the left, 2.0 in the center, and 2.5 on the right. And I think you're right on in saying the scoreline was a little flattering, and I think we could expect to see Villa showing some signs of improvement offensively.
Yep, I think we're going to be spoilers a little bit. I think a bit like Brighton, teams playing them aren't going to be getting a huge amount of fantasy points. I think they're not the sort of side that's going to get beaten like 8 or 9-0. Like some other teams occasionally do. So I think they'll probably finish about mid-table, maybe upper half.
Maybe even better. We'll see how good that attack, that front four can kind of be organized. See what Dean Smith. I'm very curious.
Now Watkins is back. It could he can create a lot more problems for opposing teams, can't he? Ings on his own is a bit too easy for opposition to keep an eye on.
I agree. Watkins will complicate things for people. Moving on to the next clean sheet. So we have Man United. Did not come to pass. Man United clean sheet did not come to pass. But I honestly don't think Newcastle are finished scoring even without Callum Wilson. What are your thoughts?
No, they looked pretty good going forward yesterday, and whether they not yesterday, but they had plenty of counter-attacking opportunities, didn't they? And whether they'll get that in the easier type games, they probably won't. And teams like Villa and all those mid-table teams, etc., are all going to target Newcastle, aren't they? They're the games they want to win against teams like Newcastle. So I think they're going to end up kind of lower half somewhere, but they're not terrible, are they? I don't know how long Wilson's out for. They probably do need him.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely need him. I do see them. I agree with you. I see them scoring even without him. It's always tough to judge Callum Wilson's injuries. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, right now, here's my concern with Newcastle, right, is they're going to go down in most games. And when Steve Bruce gets towards the end of a game and he's losing, he just starts throwing shit at the wall to see what'll stick. It's just like, let's throw this player, let's throw that, and without any real plan. And I think that could have a long-term detrimental effect on the team. So I would be keeping an eye on that, but that's more like a long-term, just kind of red flag for me from the manager's perspective.
Man United's defence, I'm not sure. They never keep clean sheets, do they? They haven't done lately. We haven't had a clean sheet all season from United yet. And they always find a way of letting in a goal, don't they?
They kind of do, and I have to be honest, and I don't know exactly why.
Even yesterday in the Champions League, I mean, they went down to 10 men, but you think they could have been a bit more, a bit more solid than they were. I mean, young boys were all over them and ended up losing, didn't they? They should be a bit more stoic in that, I think, in defence. Something not quite right with them.
And I wonder, and I don't know, I'll have to watch them maybe more closely in the coming weeks from a tactical perspective, but I wonder if it's just that desperate need for the shield, a good defensive midfielder to protect the back line, at least to delay opposing attacks and make them go horizontally instead of so vertically.
That's a key position, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so
All,
important.
all the good defensive teams have got a good defensive midfielder in there somewhere.
Exactly, and that's my suspicion that's what's going on with Man United defense. And now their fixtures are potentially going to turn and become a little trickier.
Also, Solskjaer, he wants to play like Fergie, doesn't he? He wants all-out attack, and he's not going to care less if they let a goal in. Really, I don't think clean sheets are like a priority with him. As long as they score 3 goals, I mean, the opposition getting a goal isn't going to bother him, I think. So, whereas some teams just hate giving up a goal, don't they? So,
yeah. I mean, I guess with the plethora of options Solskjaer now has in attack with the addition of Cristiano Ronaldo, I guess maybe it's okay to expect that to be a little irresponsible defensively.
Yeah, because Shaw's going to be bombing forward and that, isn't he? And they're going to be winning like 3-1, 4-1 quite a bit, I think.
I would agree with that. Okay, I jumped the gun on the trap of the week, but the trap of the week, thankfully for Nima, did not end up being a trap. Arteta was the trap of the week, and they came away with a professional performance. Don't you think so, Nick?
Why was he a trap?
Why was Arteta a trap? Well, I think I have to go back and I'm trying to think what were you
expecting?
To Arsenal to not score.
Are you expecting Arsenal to not score?
Yeah, I think that was the expectation because on Mariner's metrics, Arsenal were bottom for attack. Mariner spent quite a bit of time ridiculing Arsenal and giving Nima some shit for Arsenal.
They might have been bottom in attack, but Norwich were also bottom in defence just about. So I was expecting more goals than we actually got, actually. It was very surprising it was only 1-0. They could have scored 3 or 4.
They could have. They very well dominant.
On my tables, they were the best team of the week in terms of dominating the opponents, and it was only 1-0. Was a bit of a surprise.
Well, yeah, there's Nima. Nima says Mariner wanted to laugh at Arsenal. Yes, he did want to laugh at Arsenal, but it's good to see. I think we finally saw what Arsenal is becoming. We saw the 4-3-3 come into play for the first time in the season. He's been talking about it for quite some time, and I think Arsenal were better in that 4-3-3, to be perfectly honest. So I think we've seen a little bit of the Arsenal identity show its face.
Yeah, I think they're going to finish in the top half of the table. I'm glad we're at this stage now anyway, because we've done all that a bit before, haven't we? We've finally got onto the stuff we haven't done before, so that's good.
Yeah, it's good to be current.
But I like Arsenal, and I think they'll be fine. People like to laugh at them, but they'll all have Arsenal players in their teams soon.
They will, and we will get to that conversation. FPL BG Boy 88, Arteta masterclass against Giant Norwich with a laughing. Fair enough, but hey, they got it.
That is true. That is true. It was Norwich.
Yeah, but Norwich looked a little more solid as well. I thought.
Yeah, I'm hoping Gilmore comes back because they rested Gilmore, who's in my team. He's another of my problems, and hopefully he'll come back in. You never know. Maybe he won't. Because like you say, they did look a bit better, didn't they, than they have done. They would have fancied that game against Arsenal, wouldn't they? And they lost. Yeah. So we'll see where they go from here.
Yeah.
I suspect they'll be bottom all season. I think they'll be bottom of the table all season, probably.
I have a feeling that might be the case. I know Late Riser, I think, is starting Gilmore this week.
Yeah, well, I'm contemplating it myself. If Watkins is only out for a week, not Watkins, Webster, if he's only out for 1 week, then I might do the same because otherwise I have to take a hit. So he is quite attacking, but we don't know if he's going to actually play, do we?
Right. Moving on to the defensive hull prediction from last week, and I'll fly through this one because we've talked about it already. And it was Luke Shaw. Did get a little return, but obviously they lost a clean sheet, so no defensive haul per the metrics here. So next, we're going to take a little break, Nick,
Are
Get
we?
a sip of water. It's just a few seconds here to. Oh no, wait, no, I think that's. Never mind. I was gonna go to.
I can keep going if you want.
Yeah, let's keep
Oh,
going. I was
you've got
gonna go to
an
this,
advert.
but this already happened. I think voting ended, so we'll just let's keep it rolling. You good?
You can go and get some water if you want. I can carry on.
Got some right here. All right, and okay, so on the screen now we have the Attack FDR for the upcoming game week. Just for the podcast listeners, just to review everything. The lower numbers is darker shade of green, which equals good. The higher numbers is a darker shade of red, which equals bad. 0 is the best. 7 is the worst, except for Sheffield United last season, who got to 7.2 and broke the metric. And then there's a new column, the VAR column on the far right-hand side. And this is the variance of FDR based on 21-22, so it's a small data set. Obviously 4 game weeks, but it's versus average FDR from other periods. So the other periods are 2019 with fans, 2020 with fans, 2020 with fans, 2021 full season, and 2021 since game week 29, the part without fans. So those are kind of the different sections. And for the benefit of the podcast listeners as well, I will just kind of read them. And I'm going to start from the bottom up. And this is the Attack FDR. On the left, we have home. On the right, we have away. So Attack FDR for home. At the bottom, we have Brentford with 4.4. Crystal Palace, 4.3. Norwich, 4.2. Wolves, 4.2 as well. And Southampton at 4.0. Just to go over the variance for each one. So just so you kind of see what the form is like. So Brentford are bottom. 4.4, and their form is negative 0.7, and which is about neutral. 0 is neutral. Sorry, hold on. 0 is so negative would be positive. 0 is neutral, and then positive would be bad. Crystal Palace, obviously, after their recent performance, is negative 1.9. So they're in the green, 1.9. Norwich are in the green by 1. Wolves are in the green by 0.6, and Southampton are in the red by 2. So Southampton are in poor form. The rest are in slightly improving form, except for Palace, who are in great form. Let's see. What stands out? Go ahead.
These numbers are based on the 4 games we've just had, are they? They're not for future games.
So these are the numbers based on. I think these numbers are historic. So they go back 12 game weeks. They go back 12 game weeks and then the promoted teams. I believe there's a qualifier. There's I think it's at 2/3, whatever the metrics were in championship. It's set at 1/2 or 2/3 what those metrics would be.
Okay. That's why Leicester are much higher than, it includes last season as well.
Correct, that includes last season as well. Anything that immediately just kind of catches your attention? Well, let me do the top teams, and then we'll go over all of it.
I don't really agree with them. Well, bringing last season into it, I don't know.
So talk about that. So just the thought behind bringing last season's numbers into this season, given how different things are this season. What are your thoughts on that?
Exactly. Last season in my mind was like a big outlier. So, especially with home and away, because it was completely different last season. It was actually an advantage to be away from home last season, wasn't it? So I wouldn't put too much store in bringing over last season's stats into this season. But
well, it's a really good point you bring up, Nick. And I think the way Mariner kind of deals with that is by including the variance. So the variance, that column on the right, it says how good they are doing this season compared to those times last season and before. So I think that's the one thing, like, well, for statistical purposes, you get better statistical models if you use historic data. But for our immediate purposes, we need to see also compare with immediate data. So I really like that juxtaposition there. Just to go from the top down, the top 5 are Manchester City are top for attack home FDR with 0.7. Then Liverpool with 1.1, Manchester United at 2.1, Chelsea at 2.5, and Everton at 3.0. So just on this home attack FDR, any teams, any metrics, anything stand out for you?
In the top 5 of the whole thing?
Just the whole thing.
Palace, I think, are far too low. They look good this season. And they're one team where you can't really compare last season with this season because they've got a new manager, etc. And I'm quite high on Palace. I think Palace of this season's West Ham. You know, I think they're just as good as West Ham. You know, people won't agree with that, but I think they're going to do very well. You know, they could be finished between 10th and 8th. And, you know, I'm quite high on them. I'm going to be getting some of them in, I think, in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, I think we've learned a lot about Palace, haven't we?
Well, I mean, they lost to Chelsea, didn't they, in game week 1, which is quite understandable. But then, like they drew at West Ham, drew with Brentford, and they absolutely slaughtered Tottenham, you know. And you can say Tottenham are rubbish, but, I mean, Palace made them look rubbish as well. So 3-0, and Tottenham had like 0.05 expected goals or something ridiculous, you know. But Palace are really good.
So I wonder, Nick, just looking at this FDR, what if you rank them from the variance, from like that form table? So if we rank the form kind of column there, we would have Manchester United top at 2.5, Crystal Palace second at 1.9 in terms of form, Manchester City third at 1.7, Everton fourth at 1.5, and West Ham fifth at 1.3.
That looks a lot more realistic. You perhaps you should have ordered them that way on the table.
Well, that's a really interesting concept. Like, honestly, it hasn't, because these metrics are so native to Mariner. He goes through it, and I'm so used to seeing it this way that, you know, sometimes it takes a different perspective. Like you're going to come and say, well, what if we ordered it this way? Then we get maybe a more accurate representation of what we're seeing right now in front of us.
Yeah, because I think more recent form is more important than stuff that happened last season. So that would be more interesting. Who would be at the bottom of the table? Let's have a look. Leicester. Is it Leicester?
Yeah. So if we read the bottom, from bottom up, we have Leicester at 3.1, Leeds at 2.8,
and Watford.
Southampton, Watford at 2.6, and Southampton and Chelsea at 2.0, which is...
Yeah, that's a bit wrong, isn't it?
Well, we did say how Chelsea's attacking stats weren't great. Lukaku 2 shots, you know, their production has been good, but their stats haven't been good. But I think this is
true.
So that maybe that's what's being reflected there. Very interesting stuff. Let's move on to the away, the attack for away. Go through this a little quicker now that we've introduced it and everything. At the bottom, reading from the bottom up, we have Watford at 5.0, Norwich at 4.8, Brighton at 4.5, Brentford at 4.2, and Crystal Palace at 4.1. Now remember, this is away attack FDR. Top, reading from the top down, we have Liverpool at number 1 with 1.1, Chelsea at number 2 with 1.9, then West Ham with 2.3, then City also with 2.3, then United at 2.9. Now for reading, now I'm going to go learn from what we just did and read the variance. So the variance at the top, so the team in best form, statistically speaking, right now is Wolves with 3.0. The second is Man City with 1.9. This is away, remember, just a reminder, this is away. Third, let's see, is Man United with 1.1. Fourth is Chelsea at 1.0. And fifth is Leicester at 0.9. So attack, the away FDR. So away, I mean, Liverpool just got a whole lot better in their away stats after that Leeds match. They They went, so their variance, the VAR last week was 0.0. So their form for the season was 0.0. After the Leeds match, it went to 1.9, which shows that we still have too little data.
Yeah, because you get a player sent off, and it's just all it needs is one game with like huge variance, and it like doesn't average out because there's not enough games to average it with, so it kind of takes on more importance.
And the West Ham Leicester game from a couple of weeks ago comes to mind as well.
And there was City as well, where they trashed somebody over, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was the 5-0, right?
Probably Arsenal, was it? Anybody playing Arsenal's had like really good scores.
Oh Lord! See, even when Arsenal gets better, we can't help trashing Arsenal on the show.
The Wolves one, I think, is the way. I think is quite interesting because the way they're set up, really set up for counter-attacking, aren't they? So they could actually end up being one of the better away sides, I think.
It's so that's you took the words from my mouth, Nick. We were thinking the same thoughts here. The sharp contrast in Wolves between home and away is really interesting. It's something to note. I will say it could be due to a small sample size. Who have they played home and who have they played away? I think it's so these are good at this point in time. They're good to raise an eyebrow, but you can't draw firm conclusions from this yet. Are we in agreement?
No, I normally wait 16 weeks before doing home and away tables because you need eight home games and 8 away games to get a decent sample. Otherwise, you are relying on what happened last season, and I don't really take too much store in that, really.
Well, I appreciate that. That's consistent. That's consistent in your thinking. So that's I like that. I like that approach because I don't give much value to historic data either because teams also change and managers change.
Everything changes.
Yeah. So I agree with you there. Let's moving on to the defense. Let's see. We have the defense FDR at the very bottom for home. We're doing home right now. Newcastle is bottom at 5.0 with a variance of with a variant. Well, I'll do the variance at the end. I like doing that at the end. So Newcastle at the bottom of 5.0, then Norwich with 4.8, then Leeds with 4.3, Southampton also have 4.3, and then we have Watford and Brentford at 4.2 for their home defense FDR. Those are the worst, the best. Man City is top with their home defense at 1.9, then Chelsea 2.0, then Brighton 2.1, United 2.5, which is really interesting, and Palace up there. It's good to see Palace up there at 3.0. Now, to cover the variance, the best variance is for home defense is for Brentford at 4.2. Then we have Palace second at 3.0. Then Liverpool at 2.5. Then City at 2.3. And then we have Southampton 1.6 for their home defense. Thoughts on this one, Nick? Home defense.
Home defense, yeah, it's Palace again. I mean, a lot of us captaining Salah this week, mainly because there's not many other options. But Palace are right up there, aren't they? And Newcastle are way behind everybody else. They're like the worst of the worst by the look of this.
Yeah.
And I think, is it Leeds playing them this week?
Yes, yep, Leeds.
Yeah, Leeds.
Yep.
So you can see why people are getting Bamford in because Newcastle are the opponents you want at the moment, I think.
Would you be getting rid of Ayling this week?
No, I'm not getting rid of Ayling. I've got too much. I've got so many fires to put out in my team. I'm not considering getting rid of Ayling. I'm quite happy with him. I wouldn't say happy, but yeah, I mean, I'm only going to start him in the really easy games anyway. But he could get some attacking points, I suppose, couldn't he?
I think that's the hope. We've spoken how we like Newcastle's attack and we don't like Leeds' defense. So I think that it's that clean sheet, the almost impossibility of a clean sheet or seeming impossibility of a clean sheet. I think that's deterring people. Or that's turning people off from Ayling. But I agree with you. I think this could be a good week for him. However, what I will say is he may be stuck on that at center back, right?
Is that what's happening?
With the red cards and the injuries, I think Ayling may get stuck at center back, and that center back really it's a tough hold. It's a tough hold.
don't have much choice anyway, so I've got to play them regardless. So they'll keep a few clean sheets, I'm sure.
Okay, well, moving on to the away defense. Newcastle's bottom 4.6, then Leeds 4.4. So Crystal Palace is the same 4.4, but they are on the upswing there. Then Burnley 4.3 and Southampton also at 4.3. The best away defenses are Manchester City at 2.1, Chelsea at 2.7, Wolves at 3.0, Everton at 3.1, Brighton at 3.3. I want to turn people's attention right away to Wolves. Wolves started this season as a perceived whipping boy in terms of defense. And their defense, that Bruno Lage press has been working, huh?
Wolves' defense. Yeah, they look very good, don't they? Very good.
And
quite attacking as well, and they're still kind of not conceding while still managing to attack at the same time. So whether teams have worked them out or not, I'm not sure, but they look very good.
Yeah, and you know, I will say it's interesting you mentioned both the attack and defense, because the Wolves' defense comes from their attack, right? It comes from their they don't press high. They press high in midfield. They don't press high from like at the front line. They press high in midfield and break to those fast players in the front line quickly, and that midfield pressure is stifling teams. What we haven't seen yet is a team beat that midfield pressure, but I think it will happen. It has happened to Lage in seasons past. So I'm a little wary about that, and I'm still very excited to bring in Semedo.
They've got so much pace, though, so I think the opposition's going to be a bit afraid to kind of attack them too much because they're going to get countered the whole time. So it's going to be interesting to see how people cope with playing Wolves, I think. Okay,
so that's sorry, go ahead. Do you have something?
No, I was just saying I didn't really know much about the manager at all from his previous times, but they look good for the now anyway.
Yeah.
Got good fixtures, haven't they? So
okay, so this is just for the the current FDR for attack and defense after game week 4. Now we're going to move on to the long range FDR. The screen's going to look a little busy at first, but again, we'll go over it. So here we are, the long range FDR. So we have it in kind of 2 sections. We have the game weeks 5 and 6, the next 2 matches, and then game week 7 through 13. You know, with the idea that there are a lot of managers thinking of wildcarding in game week 7 because of the fixture swings for several top teams. So that, you know, that strategy makes sense. But I wanted to tackle, hold on, bring this up. Here we go. Let's see. So I'm going to go over this. I guess it's really difficult to go over this for the podcast listeners. So bear with me, but I am going to try. I'm going to try to explain it. So we have the game weeks 5 and 6. We have FDR, the attack FDR, the defense FDR, and the average FDR. So averaging the 2. If the idea here is for your attacking defenders, look at the average FDR. And then otherwise, just for your defenders, you look at your defense, and for your attackers, you look at the attack. For the hybrid players, that's what the average FDR is there for. Obviously, this is red is bad, green is good, high number is good, low number is bad. In game weeks 5 and 6, so the first 3 colored columns there, Nick, do you see what stands out to you?
Good question.
So
I don't know. It all looks a bit confusing.
It all looks confusing. So let me highlight something.
Green one is like Newcastle got a green next to them. What does that mean?
Okay, so Newcastle, their attack FDR is 0.6.
So that's good, is it? Or is it minus is good, isn't it?
Minus is bad. So it's kind of neutral.
Minus is bad. Minus is bad this time. Is it?
Minus is it flips just because of the way. I don't know, Mariner can explain that part of it. It's confusing at first. I'm going to bring up a couple of points here, right? Number one in captaincy selection. Look at the difference between Liverpool's FDR. And now this is game week 5 and 6, so definitely take it with a grain of salt. Liverpool's FDR 3.2 compared to some of the other ones is, I mean, with Palace and Brentford, we're all saying that Brentford is not the worst defensively, not good, but not the worst, and Palace is decent. This seems like kind of an high to me for Liverpool attack.
Yeah, I mean, compared with the others, it is, but
right.
A lot of the others haven't got great fixtures. I mean, if you look outside Salah this week, it's very hard to find anybody else to captain, isn't it? So I can see why they're ahead, but I still don't really like the fixtures. You know, I don't like the Palace fixture too much. And I think Brentford are being flattered a bit. I'm still not convinced by Brentford. I mean, that game week 1, Arsenal could have got like 3 or 4 goals, even though they didn't have a proper striker, which is probably why they didn't get any. But they looked good to start with. But when we came into the season, everybody was saying that Watford would have the best defence among the new teams and that Brentford would have the best attack. But it's kind of flipped on its head, isn't it? Like Brentford attacks look rubbish. Yeah, their defence is getting all the praise, but I don't know if they'll keep it up. You can see Liverpool battering them, can't you?
Yeah.
So, but Palace, I think, they've still got a couple of goals against Palace, haven't they? But I think Mane used to play for Palace, didn't he? Maybe Mane will do some good this time.
It would be nice if Mane would start. I mean, it would be nice for everyone, right? Like I'm thinking, I just bought Jota blanked when if Mane starts converting. I think a lot of different assets would start to pop as well. I think I think even Trent would start to pop more. Trent does well when Mane does well, and vice versa. I think what's the next couple of game weeks, it looks to me, I look at it and I kind of share your thoughts on that. There's not much. It looks like a transition week. Like things are kind of changing. And evolving, and then we hit that fixture swing in game week 7, right? So when we look at the game week 7 through 13, so for this was instrumental for me because I'm on Wildcard, currently on Wildcard, and we'll get to some of that later. But just looking at this, I look at game week 7 to 13. I know how I can manage game weeks 5 and 6 because I had already planned for them from before, right? So I'm looking at game week 7 to 13, and I look at the best attacks. Chelsea at 1.9, Liverpool at 2.3, Manchester City at 2.0. Game week 7 through 13, look at United's attack. It drops from 1.2 in game weeks 5 and 6 to 0.6 in game weeks 7 through 13. So what this tells me, for me, this part of the show, I'm just kind of like open up my brain, let people in on my process a little bit, Nick. And honestly, I'm not a very experienced FPL manager, so if I could get just kind of your commentary as someone with much more experience than I have on the process, I think that would be helpful for me anyway. So a little more self-serving here, but so I see here United have a 1.2 FDR in games 5.6, and it drops to 0.6 in 7 through 13. So the way I'm approaching this is I plan on going with 3 premiums in game weeks 5 and 6. And in game week 7, moving, and I know it's going to be difficult, and I know people are going to say that I'm not going to want to do that, but I'm thinking of maybe turning Cristiano Ronaldo into City assets in game week 7. And then either going with De Bruyne, or if Torres keeps hitting, maybe going for Torres or someone like that. What are your thoughts on maybe starting with 3 premiums and then shifting over when the fixtures turn?
Yeah, it sounds reasonable. I think you're going to want Ronaldo for the next 2 games, but then after that, I think a lot of people are going to get rid of him in game week 7 and get Lukaku in. So I think I'll be doing the same. But I mean, there's a case for having them both and just keeping them there probably, but I suspect I will. We'll see how they get on against West Ham. You know, if Ronaldo looks really good away at West Ham, then I might have a rethink because, you know, that's not an easy game for him. And if he's just like getting lots of points in those type of games, then I'll be a bit more concerned about kicking him out. But we'll see. You know, it's a bit early to know. But I mean, you can't. Doesn't harm to start with him, does it? Because then you've always got the choice. Once you get to game week 7, you can either stay with your 3, and then you can decide then. You know, so probably a good idea to start with them, because if you don't start with them and then you decide you need him, it'll be harder to do it that way around. Plus, you will have missed his points. So, yeah, I think it's a good strategy. I mean, you could go without Lukaku, though, couldn't you, now, for the next 2? And then just swap Ronaldo to Lukaku, which is what everyone else is doing.
That is what everyone else is doing. And here's what I don't like about that. I think Tottenham is actually a really nice matchup for Lukaku. I think it sets up perfectly for him. They also, aside from, I mean, just not having good players back there, they have red cards and injuries, so to contend with. So Lukaku only, in my opinion, only has one tough fixture against City, and that's worth saving a transfer for me. So that's why I kind of want to start with both of them.
He can score against City as well, can't he?
Yeah, he can.
They've beaten City the last few times they've played them.
So
City have got to concede sometime, haven't they?
Well, I mean, and I wouldn't be surprised if they conceded to Lukaku, to be perfectly honest. We said how clinical he can be, how few opportunities he actually needs to return, right? The other thing I'll say for going with 3 premiums is that the fixture swings right now, there's a nice fixture swings for the budget options. So we have Sarr, Rafinha, both with really nice fixture swings. Gallagher's starting to hit, and Gray is in there. So there was who is it? At FPL, at Fantasian FPL, I think, Ian on Twitter, he was saying, if you cast a wide net in terms of those budget options in midfield, and then obviously have a plan for the ones that don't hit, you maximize your chances of, you know, if you get, say, I'm going to get Gray, only Damari Gray, right? Then there's a high chance that Damari Gray won't pan out. But if you get several of them, there's a chance one of them will pan out, and then you deal with the other 2 or something like that. So that would be that's the risk, but that's also the opportunity and the way to get 3 premiums, in my opinion. If you were on Wildcard now, Nick, sorry, go ahead.
It's probably the only way you can get 3 premiums, isn't it? By sticking the cheap midfielders in. I think what you've got to be careful of, though, is if the mid-price midfielders start doing really well, you kind of shut yourself out of them. You know, once you've got 3 premiums in your team. Yeah. You know, someone like Havertz, for example, would be very hard to bring in. And there aren't that many, though, are there, really? I suppose there's still Greenwood, but like you say, Man United fixtures are taking a turn for the worst. So what other ones are there? Zaha could be, for example. I'd quite Grealish. Like to jump on someone like Zaha. Yeah, even Grealish.
Yeah, Grealish is an option. And one thing in that structure, I'm also sacrificing Jota in the short term. And, you know, the FDR here says that Liverpool have the best fixtures by far in the next 2 game weeks, better than anyone else at 3.2 compared to 1.6 for second best City. So is going without Jota a mistake? Is going without Jota on Wildcard a mistake, knowing that Firmino will definitely miss the next match and most likely miss the one after that as well?
I think if you're wildcarding, he's the sort of one that you kind of think, well, he's only got 1 or 2 more games left in him. And you leave him out probably, don't you? I don't know. I mean, you could still go with him. Well, I mean, you've still got transfers to use, haven't you? So there's no harm in going with him.
Yeah. All right. So
even one from you could go with a Man City, although yeah, then you have to put up with their tough fixtures, then, though, don't you? So
yeah, Man City is like, well, again, Man City. I see it's just the Chelsea. It's just the Man City Chelsea game for me. That's tough. I don't think Liverpool is a tough fixture for attack. That's just my opinion for opposing. So
would you bench Trent Alexander against City?
Never. Never,
So,
ever bench Trent.
so it's a good fixture for City's attack, but you still wouldn't bench him.
Right. It's because it can come. There are so many different ways points can come through Trent, and that's why.
I don't think I'd bench him either. I was just being cheeky.
No, well, I mean, it's if we don't check ourselves and ask these questions, then we fall into traps, right?
But I thought Palace had good fixtures, but looking at it, they're not hugely great, are they? I mean, so I think they got Arsenal and Leicester there, but I think by the time we get to game week 7 and 8, I think both of those teams will have sorted themselves out a bit by then.
Yeah, I think it's okay to go with a budget Palace option. You know, if you want to punt on Gallagher or something like that, because I think Gallagher has proven to return against difficult teams.
True, he's probably the one, isn't he, over Zaha, because he's so cheap that you can, especially if you're going with 3 premiums, and he's ideal, really, isn't he?
And he was the alchemist last week, and he banged. So I like Gallagher on my wild card.
He just looks so good. He's on all the corners and everything, and there's not a lot not to like about him at the moment.
Yeah. Okay, let's see what do we have next. We have the zonal matchups coming up here now. So this table for the podcast listeners, you know, obviously it says this is the matchups for left, center, and right for game week 5. And then we have the combined game week 5 and 6. And then we have the combined game week 7 through 10. Again, we mentioned earlier how the zonal matchups need to be taken with a grain of salt, similarly to the home and away, because they could be highly dependent on their opponents. So if they've only had a couple of matches, and we have a special guest, must bring him on the show, Nima, my brother. I'm so happy to see you, man. Welcome.
What's up, peeps?
All right, back again.
I can't believe you're here at 3 a.m. Helping us out and stopping us sailing with one kind of captain tonight. So that's very kind of you.
Oh, it's 5:30 now. It's all good.
No, we had a great time on Monday. Late Risers already watched the episode. He was like, "Did he tell you that I'm his bitter rival of 10 years?" I was like, "Yeah, we spoke about it." He loves you. He said that you helped him for his honeymoon.
That's right. Yeah, I did. I planned all his route around New Zealand and everything for him. Whether he followed it or not, I don't know. But
awful kind. Well, we'll get that.
I feel bad because I'm always being cheeky to him. You know, like I was saying about his transfer was terrible this week. You know, there's no need for him to transfer on Monday, etc. You know, but he's like, we have like this love-hate relationship, me and him, because all our best seasons, I think, were all in the same years, and we were like always rivals. You know, I'm always looking to see where he is. One of the first things I do at the end of the season is have I beaten Late Riser? You know,
Nick, you and Late Riser, you guys are your own mini league.
we're in our same mini league now, so I can check up on him easier. Because
do you know what he said, Pernil? So Pernil's not called you out, but he called Hibbo out. He said, "I can't believe you think I tried too hard with the cane move, Hibbo. You've known me for a fucking decade." And then Hibbo was like, "No, don't take it that way. Wasn't how it was meant. I knew you'd do this." And I was like, he's like, "Of course I don't misinterpret you. Don't worry." So I was like, "Okay, they're cool. No beef."
Hibbo was like, no.
He's like, no, in the Irish charm. I'll let you go back to zonal matchups, but definitely when we get to the Q&A, I'm sure we can descend into some chaos with the 3 talking heads on the screen.
Nima, you are the master of chaos, my friend. So I look forward to that. All right, so here we are with the zonal matchups, game week 4 and beyond. I mean, game week 4, there's one matchup that stands out beyond all of the rest. It's supreme. The supreme matchup, of course, it's Arsenal. I have to say something nice about Arsenal because everyone throws so much shit on Arsenal. We have to balance it out. We're all about different perspectives. Their matchup on the left-hand side is the best this week, 5.0 on the left-hand side. Nima, talk to me about that left-hand sided matchup against Burnley.
Yeah, so I think Tierney, I was saying in the chat, if I was on Wildcard, I'd actually maybe consider him over Semedo. Something about that pick excites me. I think he made 6 chances in the first game, and only Trent has made more chances in 1 game so far this season. So I like that, and I think it's a time to be investing in someone like him. There's no midweek games at a time when we're all worrying about these other clubs, the better clubs, let's just say, who are playing in Europe Wednesdays, Thursdays. You know, the West Hams of the world, Spurs, all the big
Oh, you
teams,
said
City,
it. You said
Chelsea,
Spurs.
Liverpool. Well, I put them in the kind of Europa category, and then we'll Champions League players. I think this is a time to invest in Arsenal, to be honest. They don't have the cup games. And I think last game, the other thing I would say is the back five, they played together for the first time. So it was a little bit nervy. The reality is, like, half of that team, I think 5 or 6 of them had their home debut that day. So there was a lot of kind of having to connect 2-3 days training together. It doesn't give you that chemistry. So I think now we move on a few weeks. We're going to see the real Arsenal, as you're saying, by kind of game week 6, 7.
Nick, any interest? Look at that left matchup.
This game against Burnley is going to be interesting because, like, Burnley are quite a physical sort of side, aren't they? And they're at home to Arsenal. And this is when we'll find out if Arsenal really are on the way back, I think. Because Norwich are pretty easy to play against.
They're pretty
Burnley,
trash.
Going to Burnley is a different matter. You know, just the physicality of those Burnley players.
They normally beat our players up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Arsenal are a bunch of kids, aren't they? And they might get intimidated and bullied off the ball, etc. So it's going to be interesting to see how they cope with a team like Burnley.
I think Xhaka being banned, if he is still banned, that is actually a positive for Arsenal, because if you look back on previous seasons, in that Burnley game, especially as you say, Nick, he loses his head and gets a red card most seasons against Burnley. It seems to happen every time.
Xhaka's not good against deep blocks. He gets frustrated.
Yeah.
He really does. Now, the one thing I will say about Burnley, and it has to do with Pope, and I honestly don't know how to feel about Pope, because Pope has made, I saw him, last game, he made some good saves, but Pope has the third worst XG prevented of all goalkeepers this season. It's minus 2.4. And I think that's a big problem. He's not the Pope of old. He's not the Pope that prevents XG and just prevents goals from coming in. He's just another priest.
I wouldn't be going near their defense, I don't think, personally. I think, is it 4.5 is the likes of kind of Lowton, maybe? If he's still that kind of price and you really think they have a good fixture on, maybe you would go for them. But yeah, they're not really a team. I like Chris Wood, though, but obviously I don't know what you think about that, because we've laughed at Bakar about it when he came on.
Bakar always gets laughed about Wood. But yeah, no, I would definitely wouldn't look to Burnley defense. But just to say that Burnley defense is, they are vulnerable. I do see them as a bit of whipping boys. They are tighter at home, but even at home with the way Pope is playing, I think there's always opportunity for any team that plays against Burnley. What else do we have here? The next one that kind of, let's see, any Palace, obviously it says here, difficult fixture, a little bit better on the left at 3.4 compared to 2.0 from the center and the right. Just some other things of note here. United. So United, decent. The fixture is fine. It's more towards a neutral. This is, just so you know, Nick, this is a 7-point scale. So it goes 0 is worse, 7 is worse than, whatever it is, the opposite. They flip back and forth. So even I get confused. These are the times when I miss Mariner. But basically, United's FDR here, or zonal matchup here, on the left it's 3.1. In the center it's 3.6, and on the right it's 3.6 as well. Just to compare to, let's say, Liverpool against Palace, it's 4.1, 4.3, 4.3. Leeds fixture, 4.5, 4.0, 4.0. So even Leeds fixtures are better than United. What are you guys' thoughts on United's attack from a zonal perspective against West Ham?
I'll go first, shall I? It's difficult to know, I think. It's since Ronaldo's turned up, we're not quite sure yet where they're going to be going, are we? I think down Shaw's side, possibly, but then Greenwood's on the other side, isn't he? So I don't know. It's hard to know, really. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a very telling game, I think, West Ham, Man United. We're going to find out quite a bit and see how they get on.
Yeah,
confidence would be a bit down now, and after losing midweek, they kind of need to win now, don't they? Because Solskjaer's going to be back in on get rid of him time, isn't he? A couple of bad results, and it's all going to turn to custard, I think.
Nima, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was saying it's already happened, Nick. There's 200 people on the live chat on Spaces yesterday, and it was like Ole out. It was the hashtag.
Well, I went into that one, and I
Yeah,
couldn't
you
get
went
a
in to
word
listen,
in.
yeah?
Couldn't get a word in.
It's a bit of a twilight zone. I do agree. We're going to learn a lot about United in this matchup away. West Ham, a team that started the season really well.
But they've got Europa League, haven't they? Are they playing on Thursday or whenever? So
yeah,
and they don't have Antonio. So I mean, this should be a good. This should be a good clean sheet chance for
It could be
United.
We've been saying that about Shaw since we got him in game week 1. Do you have any plans to ditch him, Nick?
I'm open-minded about Shaw. I mean, he's probably my route to getting a Chelsea defender, because he's at the same kind of price. So if I don't wildcard in game week 7, I'll probably swap Shaw to a Chelsea defender and change Ronaldo to Lukaku, and job done, really. I don't think I need to make any wildcards or anything just yet.
That's what I'm thinking. So I know there's another fixture swing around game week 15, and I'm wondering whether if I can stumble through with a wildcard, let the people go ahead of me now. It's what you said last stream. It's just points. Like maybe they're 10, 20 points ahead of me, but hopefully when I wildcard, it does more than theirs did. So I shouldn't see it as a loss.
Who else are people wildcarding for in game week 7? It seems to me they're just wildcarding to get Chelsea players in. I mean,
and
you
maybe
can just
Torres if he's nailed.
Yeah, getting more information on City players, I think.
Or like one man City attacker if we know who's nailed. But I don't think that's ever going to be a day when we know.
No, never find that out.
Well, I think having KDB back and Foden back will teach us something. But obviously I agree. You can never bank on a City attacker.
Foden could be the best pick, couldn't he? You just don't know, do we?
The last thing I'll mention regarding the zonal matchups here is notice how similar they are across the board. Obviously, those in the podcast can't see it, but I'll just read them across. I'll just start with game week 5. So Aston Villa's FDR from left, center, right will be the orders. 3.1, 3.1, 3.1. Brentford, 2.4, 2.6, 2.6. Brighton, 3.8 on the left, which is this one's different. 2.4 and then 2.4. Burnley, 3.9, 4.0, 4.0. Chelsea, 4.0, 4.0, 4.0. So I think this is a result of the fact that it's early season and there's only been 4 matches, and this FDR has not had time to mature and really show kind of tendencies towards one side of the pitch or another. So I think we need to let this one mature like one of those fine wines that Mariner likes to drink so much. So I think the FDR needs to do the same thing here.
I reckon one of Mariner's bottles of wine costs the same as like most people's traffic fines, like penalty notices for parking and speeding. Like, yeah, I saw someone in the Scandinavian country today. They were like, "Oh, I got a ticket for being 5 meters from like a crossing. I don't normally drive. It was my parents' car in Helsinki. It was so expensive." And I was like, "Do they let you do half price like we get if you pay within 14 days?" They were like, "No, it's always full price. You pay interest if it's late. That's just cost me my wine tonight." And that made me think of Mariner. That was the connection, yeah.
We just went through like a little like a roller coaster through Nima's. This is how Nima's brain works. It's awesome.
1,000 miles per hour. Everything's connected.
Everything's connected. It's all connected to all our friends, of course. Mariner, hope you're having a lovely time with Kieran. Honestly, we're all thinking of you guys. Really happy for you guys. Glad you are reunited. So, Nick, I'm not sure if you know, but Mariner is with his son for the first time in 2.5 years, was it, Nima?
Yeah, I think so. They've come from Germany and Singapore because there was some kind of travel corridor, I think, for Singapore.
Yep. So they're able to get together. So we're really happy for him. That's why he's not here on the show today. Next, what do we got here? So FPL Mariner, this week's matchups, game week 5. So who has Nick's like, wow, more fucking tables.
Yeah.
We should go to the live Q&A soon, don't worry. We can use as much or as little as we want, he said.
You go into it a lot deeper than I do. I just look at the fixture ticker for the next 6 weeks and go, oh, I'll stick him in, That's basically what I do.
That's why I love, honestly, and if you're not following Nick's videos on YouTube as well, that's honestly, his videos are a great juxtaposition to ours, I find. I love going to your videos, Nick, and just being like, thank you. That was so refreshing. I was such a mind fuck about everything, and you just cut through the fat there. So I appreciate that about your videos.
I just try and keep it simple with my when I just look at a simple fixture ticker and see who's got the good fixtures, and that's about it, really.
I tried to convince him to wildcard live on air. My hope was that if we screen shared, he might just take the plunge. I'm always trying to talk our friends into damaging their rank so I can try and get ahead of them.
Well, I'm not going to go over this too much because we have talked about the matchups this week. We talked about the FDRs both this week and moving forward so much. I do want to get to the questions, and I want to get to the different iterations of my wildcard that I'm on currently. So hold on. I think I have a
wildcard. Sounds fun. I bet Nick is going to give us some solid RMTs. Today is you getting.
I had a look at them. You sent me the.
Nick is not going to like these. Yeah.
I think you sent me 4, didn't you? And I had a look at them. I was shaking my head. I thought.
Yes, I hope so. That was honestly that's the reaction I wanted, and I kind of had a feeling because you'll see they're a little bit irresponsible, these wildcard drafts. But before we get there, we are missing one piece of the puzzle, and that's the captaincy. So that's
yeah.
Take a look at what the renowned captaincy metric says. There it is. Salah tops the captaincy metric. If you want to see what, it's the second last column on the right hand side there. That's the final metric score. For the benefit of the people listening on the podcast, I will read the captaincy the players and their scores from the top down. So Salah is top with a score of 89. Mane is second with a score of 88. Cancelo is third with a score of 88. Really interesting there. Ferran Torres is fourth with a score of 86, and Jesus is tied. Jesus and Grealish. So you'll see how are also on 86. You'll see how the kind of metric works. If it likes a team, it likes a team, right? Because if it likes that matchup, it's going to go for players in that matchup, which is why you see kind of the double ups and the triple ups here. To go a little bit further down, once you get past the City guys, you have Jota sneaks in there, but then Lukaku sneaks in right underneath Jota before you get to Trent and Ruben Diaz. Some things of note: Salah has a return rate, which is one of the common columns there, of 75%, which is extraordinary, really. And the best FDR is from City at 127.7, although Liverpool's FDR of 125.1 does not fall too far behind there. Gentlemen, I turn this to you. Nima, why don't you, let's give Nick the time to digest.
I'm going to do a Nick. Because today, when there was the video of Nick's reaction to Gray, I saw the elite FPL lads. They tweeted and were like, content creators make these, 6 to 8 length tweet threads where they'll be like, Salah at home to Crystal Palace is a great captaincy option. This is why. And I almost felt like that's how it was watching this section for a moment. But one thing I will say is the kind of the context I like to add to data. We always say that the numbers are important. Obviously, I'm sure we all here use them to our advantage, and we pick what we want to use and build our own narratives to justify our choices to ourselves. But Mane isn't starting tonight. He's rested. Torres is starting. So I thought I'd just add that little flavor, Nick, before maybe you give your opinion on the
is Jesus starting or Jesus?
That's a good point. I've only seen that Torres is starting, but let's see about Jesus. I'll tell you. So where are we? Man City. They have Sterling, Torres, Mahrez. Well, no, that's a possible lineup on SofaScore. So there's 7 minutes till the SofaScore lineup. I think people have seen obviously tweets about Torres, hence why we've not heard about the other players yet.
I think Jesus could be a good captain choice at the weekend if we got him up. I actually was thinking about bringing him in, as a flyer. Yeah, it's interesting. He could be a good option this week. I mean, people are all going for Bamford, but if people have got a bit of spare cash and don't mind a short-term pick, and Jesus isn't too bad. I don't think I will get him because they've got blooming Chelsea after, haven't they? And he doesn't start every game, so But for just as a 1 week captain pick, I think he's pretty good, you know.
I like that because whenever we've had City players, Gabe has somehow brought the right one and the right matchup in the right week and captained them. So I don't know if you know that, Nick. Like he brought in Gundogan for the double game week triple, captained him last year. Brought in Torres for the following double game week haul, and that was like 5 minutes before deadline, based on Sam Lee in the Athletic Q&A live chat, saying, "I think this guy doesn't play and that guy does." And like the quick snap decisions Gabe is capable of making. I know they're not making predictions, Gabe. So who would you pick as in?
Sorry, who would I pick as what? I think I broke up a little bit there, Nima.
As a cap, as a signal website, who would you pick as a captain? Because I know you don't like making predictions.
Well, I don't know.
We got him on the spot, Nick. Look, I'm going to take the slide off for 1 second just to show him sweating.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. So as captain this week, I want to follow the metric, but I'm hurt. The metric hurt me, Nima. The metric hurt me last week with that Antonio -2
last week, Nick.
Was Antonio top? Was he last week?
Yeah, and it wasn't even close. And the metric had an 80% success rate last season. So, and I had maybe half that, if I'm being generous. So I want to go with the metric, but I agree with what we were talking about earlier, that Palace is not the easy fixture that we think it is. And I got to be honest, I'm tempted by that Cancelo. He's just 1 point below Salah.
We need to see your wildcard draft soon. Let's put the
Cancelo
back up.
Is Cancelo playing tonight?
Is Cancelo?
We'll find out in the live chat.
We'll find out. So,
let us know live chat.
Yeah, live chat. We need your help on this one. Get us a City lineup, and I'm going to go to the
wild starts. KDB starts.
Realistically, you just captain Salah this week, don't you? I mean,
you've got to be safe, surely.
It's fine to talk about these other players, but really, you're just going to captain Salah. I mean,
but I believe in Palace, Nick.
Yeah, so do I. I don't think it's great for
yeah.
Salah particularly, but there's no other real standout choice that would make you. You got something has to be really good to take the armband off Salah, you know, and there really isn't. You know, we don't really want Ronaldo away at West Ham.
But what if West Ham players or they get injured?
City players are too unpredictable. You might get 1 point or whatever. And who else is there apart from Salah? I saw some people were captaining Trent. But I never captain defenders. So,
what about Nima's point there that there is a narrative building, right? That West Ham are on the decline, and they will be. They could be a little fatigued from their game tomorrow. Is that an opportunity for Cristiano?
And Ronaldo might have a higher EO than Salah. So I think this week, not higher EO than Salah, sorry, but higher than 100%. So I had a quick look today, Nick, and he's on about 39% ownership, Ronaldo now. And Bruno's only on 37. So it's not just an EO play anymore. He's overtaken him in overall ownership. And there's a lot of United people who will captain Ronaldo. So I think if I own Ronaldo and don't captain him, it's just a shield. So now I'm making the binary choice of, do I think Ronaldo will outscore Salah? And I think that what my captaincy will come down to is playing the managers, not who I think will score the most points. Like I could take a risk game and captain someone else. But for me, it's like, you know, if Trent loses a clean sheet, I'm in trouble. He's under 100% EO, so it will benefit me whatever happens. If I don't captain Ronaldo or Salah, I will own both of them and I want them both to blank. And I don't think I can get through a weekend like that, if I'm honest.
And I think, Nima, I think you just described the kind of the perfect way to use. A lot of people say, oh, effective ownership is irrelevant, it doesn't matter. And that's fine if you want to play it that way. But there is real strategic value in looking at effective ownership and playing that game as well. So I'm glad you brought that point up. I want to highlight a comment here from Donnie that said that the captain metric had Antonio's top pick. Yes. However, in the zonal matchups, United were well ahead versus Newcastle down the center. In a roundabout way, the metric did point to Ronaldo Hall, and I think that's a really good point.
It's a no-brainer. And I'm still saying it was a no-brainer for Ronaldo. And
I still agree.
Going Antonio is...
It was a no-brainer, and he was lucky. So it was
both.
Yeah, it's both. So that's a way we can agree to disagree. Should we get to the wild card?
Let's do it.
There we go.
Oh, here
I'll
we
let
go.
you give these reviews, Nick.
Let me,
It sounds like you weren't happy about them.
Well, it's hard to see them here for me at the moment.
Yeah,
What if I'm
same.
gonna take us off the screen for now.
Yeah, go for it.
Can't you put them on one at a time?
He might have put them all in the slide.
I put they're all in one slide. I wanted for comparison's sake. So
can I ask you a question first? Are you going to be playing 4-4-2? Because when I looked at them, I thought they looked set up for 4-4-2.
So they are actually different formations. Let's hold on. So we have.
The first one must be 4-4-2.
The first one is a 4-3-3. The second.
Okay, yeah.
The second one is a 3-5-2. The third one is a 4-4-2. And the final one is a kind of a more balanced 4-3-3 than the first 4-3-3. So for the benefit of, man, I feel sorry for podcast listeners in this one, but
I don't know what we're gonna do with the upload, because it starts with you guys like generally chatting about one of the like slides.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. So we might need to like. I might try and download the audio file and cut out the first part and restart when you come back in. I don't know, like something like that.
Yeah. Sorry.
So we'll save them. We'll save them. They'll never know. They'll only hear this evidence here now.
Okay, that's fair. As long as they have some evidence, I think they're entitled to some of the evidence that I crashed the ship and then you put it together with duct tape.
All right, we'll let you read out the players, I guess, and then
yeah. So the first draft here, I have 0.3 left in the bank. Sanchez and Foster are the goalkeepers. Back line of Semedo, Alexander-Arnold, Reece James, Cancelo, and Livramento. Midfield of Gallagher, Salah, Rafinha, Gallagher, Bissouma, and Sissoko. Now the cheap ones, don't get stuck on the individual players, especially for the cheap ones. They can be adapted. And then the front three of Ronaldo, Lukaku, and Adam Armstrong. Adam Armstrong is in there because he's a bit of a favorite pick for me. I like him. I like his expected goals on target stat a lot. And I think I know Late Riser spoke of some dangers, some perils that he may be rotated, but I think that stat is going to keep him on the field. So this is a 4-3-3. What are your thoughts on this draft here?
The first one. Well, it's interesting, that first one, actually. It's I quite like that one.
Wow.
Because your Southampton player at the front, you could change to Edward, and I won't say Tony because he's been shit so far, hasn't he?
I've still got him. I don't know whether to keep him or sell him this week.
I know in fan team I'm just leaving him because he's cheaper there, but
yeah,
6.5 is probably a bit much, isn't it? But he doesn't have to get many points to justify his price, does he? And he's already got one goal. So even if he only gets like a goal every 3 or 4 games, he can probably just about justify.
I guess that's what
being
Armstrong
there.
is here, right? So I know that Southampton's fixtures turn in a few weeks for the better. So it's quite a nice way to get early on that. And maybe he'll get some price rises when people jump onto him if he does score. So Tony's kind of like dropping in price, I guess, Nick. Whereas like we might get a few last points out of him, but we need an exit plan eventually, I reckon. Especially in FPL, maybe not in fan team, but
Southampton's
good, yeah.
Southampton's fixtures turn in 3 weeks. Yeah, I love this back line. As you can see, kind of across the board, there's a common theme with Trent, Reece James, and Cancelo. You can see kind of in the various iterations, kind of what who the nail players are for me.
The problem we're going to have, of course, is those two aren't nailed, are they? James and Cancelo, and then. I suppose you can always play one of your midfielders will come on, won't they?
Right.
So Bissouma or whoever that other one is,
Sissoko.
So it looks reasonable.
Risky, it is risky. So I'd say, do you have to play, Gabe, one of Armstrong, Gallagher? No, so you have to play 2 of Armstrong.
They have to play both of them. Yeah, play both of them
every week, right? And Rafinha as well every week.
And Palace have still got some quite tough fixtures, haven't they? And
so here's the starting lineup for this team, right? It would be Cancelo, James, Trent, and Semedo back line, 4 in the back. Rafinha, Salah, and Gallagher, the midfield 3. And then the front 3.
4-3-3.
Yeah, and then the front 3 of Ronaldo, Lukaku, and Armstrong. Now, if rotation hits, then we have Livramento, Bissouma, and Sissoko as the bench players to fill in.
They all play, I guess, at least. But
And
you
they
are
all-
right,
they're
a
reasonable.
lot on
No-
Armstrong and Gallagher, a lot.
Yeah.
No, but he can always change Armstrong to one
Yeah.
of the other cheaper
True.
ones, like Edward.
Would
Yeah.
you give it out of 10, Nick?
I'll give it 7 out of 10. And the only thing I don't like about it is he's got no access to any of the midfielders in like that 7.5 bracket, or
Yeah,
He's
even
not
8.
going to sell Salah. He's not going to sell Rafinha. So then
Or
it's hard to
yeah,
move.
even 8 million. You know, people like Mount and Havertz, and but we were saying
Pepe,
before, you know,
Pepe.
there's not that many, are there?
Pepe,
Pepe, yeah.
just about maybe.
So even bringing someone like Saka in would be difficult, wouldn't it? Because
And he's
like,
only 6.5, yeah.
and he's only 6.5. So you kind of got Rafinha and no other way of bringing any other one in, really.
Yeah, and that's a big concern because I may not want to get rid of Rafinha, right? Because if he has good
No, you
fixtures
won't.
and he's doing well,
Exactly.
then so I'll be stuck with that.
So
position.
where
Like
are you going to be
where would you
making
do
your
free
transfers?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so the transfers would be made. I envision them being made probably between Armstrong and Gallagher.
But then what players
Yeah,
are in
that
that
makes
price point? It's tough.
sense.
It makes
Or-
sense, but
Armstrong could go back down to Scarlet, right? And then that puts Gallagher up to Ferran
I think
Torres.
I like that. The free five.
Maybe you should have started with Gray instead of Gallagher. And
Well,
then you've got the option of switching to Gallagher when he gets better fixtures.
Right. Yeah. That Gallagher could be great there. That's true.
Because you're going straight to Gallagher, and they've got Liverpool this week, haven't they? And yeah.
Okay, fair enough. We can move on
You
to
can
the
quickly change it now. You
Yeah.
can quickly change it because you're going to get 2 free transfers. All you're going to do is save a transfer the
Yeah,
following
for sure.
week.
Yeah.
Keep 2 in the bank, and then you can pretty much change to anyone you want, can't you? That's what people tend to ignore. They forget about that.
Yeah, and see what happens. But I think that you guys bring up the main point in that that's the only kind of wiggle room I have is between Armstrong and Gallagher. So that's not much flexibility at all. So and that's going to be kind of a theme in all of these drafts, I think. Moving on to the second draft here, we have Sanchez and Foster are the 2 goalkeepers throughout. Sanchez could be potentially Ramsdale, right? But I think Ramsdale's terrible, so I'm not sure about that yet. This back line is Trent, James, Cancelo, and then Livramento and Duffy. So it's a cheaper back line. We have a midfield 5 of Salah, Rafinha, Sarr, Gallagher, and Gray, and a front 2 of Ronaldo and Lukaku. So this is a 3-5-2. The bench would be Livramento, Duffy, and Scarlett. And the idea behind this draft is casting that wide net. So we have these mid 5 million players that are popping, like Gray and Gallagher. And then we have Sarr, with an incredible run of fixtures. And between those 3, if I get all 3, I figure one will work out. Maybe 2 of them won't, and I'll use the other 2 for my transfers. Nick, what are your thoughts on this draft?
I hated this team. And I'll tell you why. Because you've got 3 midfielders in there under 6 million. And you've pretty much got the only 3 ones that you can have, you know.
Yeah.
There's not many people you can run to. You get all 3 of those could fail, and then what are you going to do?
As we always say on Net That Haul, it'll all end in tears, Nick.
Sarr's already had good fixtures, and he's not doing much apart from the first week. And Gallagher hasn't got that great fixtures. You know, Gray's okay for a few weeks, but then where are you going to run with them all? I don't see. You've got too many in the same price bracket.
I think Sarr is okay just for the next 3 Nick. So he has like Norwich away, Newcastle home, Leeds away. But
yeah, he does have good fixtures.
But the problem is Watford is also like 20th, I think I read, for like just
exactly. This is the
passes or
problem.
doing anything.
Yeah.
Sarr's a good player, but Watford are a bad team. So
Yeah, that's a big risk, and that's honestly amongst all these drafts, Sarr is probably the one I'm most nervous about owning.
at least Gray's in a good team, isn't he?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Out
Out of 10 before the 3rd one.
of 10,
4.
4. Yes, I love it. This next one is actually like, this is one I threw in late last night before I went to bed. So I'm going to skip it because I'm actually looking at it. I'm like, I don't know what this formation is. I don't know how this one doesn't work. So we're going to skip number 3 here. Give this one a 0. I give this one a 0 myself.
You'd have to play white every week in that one, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. I think maybe I just put this in here for Nima.
Maybe instead of white, you could have that other Arsenal defender.
Tommy Yarsi.
Yeah. Because they've got good fixtures.
Yeah.
You probably could play him every week, pretty much.
So I'll tell you what our
fixtures
fixtures look like. So apart from the Spurs game the week after next, the next serious team we play is in November against Liverpool. And that's all the way in game week 12. So I would like happily back an Arsenal clean sheet. Anyone on the show quote me. Game week 5 to 11, I bet Arsenal get the most clean sheets of any Prem team. Clip it, come back to it, laugh at me if I'm wrong.
I think Palace will get. You've got Palace. I think Palace are going to give you a tough game. That's why I decided to go for Semedo instead of Tierney, because I saw they've got Tottenham and Palace in the next 3. That put me off a little bit.
So can we have that conversation now that it's come up? Let's have that conversation of Semedo versus Tierney, because I didn't include Tierney in any of these drafts. Semedo is in half of them. I'm quite high on Semedo, but sleeping on it last night, I don't know. Maybe I'm not considering Tierney enough.
He's pretty attacking, isn't he?
What's their
he
ownership?
is.
But so's Semedo. But
Semedo's 2.8% owned. Tierney's actually 6.1% owned.
To be honest, if I was wildcarding, I think I'd have both.
Why not?
So on that point,
if it was my team, I'd get rid of Cancelo probably, just because I hate rotation.
I see. Well, what about, so on that point of having both, I'm looking at the first wildcard draft there. I could go Armstrong to a 4.5 and no, never mind. Then I would have to sacrifice like the really cheap defender. I'd have to go 5 at the back if I wanted both, and keep my 3.
I think what I'd do is take Cancelo out, put Tierney in, and that gives you an extra $1 million for your midfield, so that you can put some more differential price points in there. So then instead of having to replace everything with 5.5 or 6.5 midfielders, you've got the option to go up to one of those 7.5 people.
That's really interesting. I guess
it gives your team more balance, I think.
You could also get Dennis if Watford were more attacking.
I'm not getting Dennis.
You're not getting Dennis.
I'm not getting Dennis.
Yeah, why not get Dennis?
No, go fuck yourself.
If those next 3 fixtures are so good,
you can play him over. You could play him over one of your midfielders some weeks.
You're saying don't get Sarr, but I'm not getting Dennis.
But as if he's going to spend on Watford, why not spend less than Sarr?
Because Dennis is so much less of a player.
Is he though? I thought he was
looked okay.
Quite good.
Sarr is a mini mana, man. Sarr is a mini mana. We just haven't seen his full potential yet.
I'm gonna laugh if Dennis takes the first penalty and not Sarr. I will cry.
If Dennis does anything, I'm gonna rage. But look. So this is an interesting conversation, though, this one. Let's get to the last draft here so we can get to the live questions.
That's what you've done. You put too much in defense, I think.
Yeah. And so, so just really quickly to finish this up, the reason I was so high on Cancelo is because City are so high in all of Mariner's metrics, and Cancelo showed up so close in the captaincy metric. This happened last year when Cancelo started to show up in that metric. It didn't fully materialize. We were all waiting for this huge double haul, and it never really happened. But I'm not sure if I'm willing to back against the stats. I don't know, but I really like that suggestion, Cancelo to Tierney, and then upgrade a Traore, upgrade a midfielder to one of the mid-price ones.
In a couple of weeks, you could well find Tierney's at the top of the stats, because you've got a very small sample, and Arsenal have had bad fixtures. A couple of decent fixtures. He's going to start looking really high on the stats, I think.
Yeah, here's what turns me off about Tierney. That first match against Brentford, I saw it where everyone's like, Tierney created, I don't know how many chances. Tierney hit the same cross, the same ball to nobody 12 times in that game.
But there was
Tierney,
nobody. Do you
Yeah,
remember?
but that's what.
Yeah, but then hit something else. Hit a different ball, bro. Don't keep doing the
That's
same
no
thing over and over
different
again.
to Semedo, though, is it? Semedo's exactly
That's
the
fair.
same.
That's fair. There's a comment here from Pavan. Dennis would be shifted wide with Joao Pedro as center forward.
We've heard great things about Pedro, but I don't
He's a
think
good
we've seen
player.
him like start yet properly, have we? So that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we get a final score for your fourth team, and then we can go and get some live questions maybe for the last 10 minutes or so.
So the fourth one is a 4-4-2. If we're looking at the starters, we have Sanchez in goal, Semedo, Trent, James, and Cancelo at the back. Salah, Rafinha, Sarr, and Traore in midfield. Ronaldo and Lukaku up top. Score?
This one's not too bad, is it? I'll give that a 7 out of 10.
Okay. So I'm working off the first one and the last one, in your
Something
opinion. There.
like combining those two, but not the second or third one. It's
Not the second or third. Trash.
No, not the
Well,
second or third one.
Okay.
I've got to go to the Kazi. I'll be back in a sec.
Go for it. While Nick goes, Nima, what do you think of this last one? Score it.
So if I had to give a score for this one, I think I probably prefer it to the second one because it's like I think I prefer a 3-5-2 as opposed to like having to play Armstrong, Gallagher, and Rafinha every week. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. So I prefer just deading one of those positions completely, and then you can rely on Livramento, and Sissoko and Scarlett as your bench players, I guess. And like for me, I'd rather have that kind of formation, but I've got one bench player from each of the three positions. So for me, like this one, I'd say I prefer probably the most out of all of them, maybe even more than the first one. So Nick gave them both 7. I'll probably give this one a 7.5. The only reason for that is I don't really like Traore and Sarr together.
Yeah.
I think that's what scares me. It's the fact that they're both there. Like for me, it's kind of one or the other.
I agree with you. I think I agree with you there. What do you think of Nick's suggestion to maybe turn Cancelo into Tierney and turn Traore into like Ferran Torres if I want that City player?
See, now that's exciting to me. I think even though Cancelo is great value, I'd rather see Torres benched here and there because if he comes on, he might still get a brace. Whereas if Cancelo's benched, like I'm then relying on one of those sub players that are not that great.
Right. And I would actually probably keep Traore instead of Sarr. And I turn Sarr.
Coming up, as you said.
Yeah. So yeah, that's an interesting. It's a good session. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for the help there.
Just thinking, then you should probably get rid of Cancelo. I reckon. Especially now Champions League's back, and
I think I am going to consider that. The rotation risk is a big deal, and I could get a City asset. You know, I think it'd be easier to move on from a player like Torres than a player from Cancelo. Yeah.
And you could afford someone like Grealish, and you could have Tierney and Grealish or Foden possibly, because those two players are in that price bracket that you're excluding yourself from. You know, Gundogan even.
We've got a question from the listeners, by the way. They're saying, would you still get Torres despite him starting tonight? So I think Jesus is rested, Torres is starting. But for me, the good thing is De Bruyne is also starting. So I see De Bruyne as more of a threat to centre forward as a false 9 than Foden. I think he played many more times over the last few seasons as a number false 9 as opposed to Foden's done it only a handful of times. Now, the question is, do we think Jesus would start as striker then? I think he's been so good off the wing that come the weekend, surely he still plays on the wing, and that means Torres probably plays and gets 60 minutes or so. It's hard to second guess Pep Roulette, but if I was wildcarding and I wanted a City asset, I would rather upgrade Sarr to Torres and downgrade Cancelo to Tierney, like Nick is saying, or to kind of a second Chelsea defender. I think that would be where I'd be looking.
Maybe so Tierney or Christensen, something like that.
It doesn't have to be Torres, but I think, what do you guys think about Torres? Like, that was my opinion of whether I'd still get him despite him starting. What would you two do? Hypothetically, if you were going to get him and you saw he's starting tonight, would that put you off?
I'd never consider getting him in the first place, to be honest. That's just me.
You mentioned Grealish and Foden instead, I see.
Yeah.
For me, I think I wasn't ready to get a City midfielder yet because I want to see. I want all the players to be present, have a couple games first. I want to see what it looks like.
But you need to set yourself up so you can get one in a couple of weeks. That's
the important point. Yeah, I agree with that.
And it probably will be Foden or Grealish or one in that kind of price bracket because you're not going to want De Bruyne. So, you'll have to mesh your team around to do that. So, in the current structure.
We've
All
got
right,
an
great.
interesting one, guys. So I
Mhm.
don't know if Gabe, is there anything else you wanted to cover before we go to the questions?
No, let's live questions. Let's do it. You
So we've
got
got
some?
Robert Ducky from the show. He's saying he's actually playing a 4-5-1 this week. So it's interesting. I'm guessing he's not wildcarding, but it's interesting to see that on wildcard, people are going for like 2 premium attackers. They're going for 4 free frees. They're very popular on wildcard this week, I think, Nick. What do you think about 4-5-1?
But he's probably he's probably benching Antonio this week,
Yeah.
isn't he? Which is probably why he's playing 4-5-1.
Yeah.
He was probably playing 3-5-2 and just benching. A lot of people will probably be doing the same, won't they? I mean, it's an interesting debate, the old Antonio keeping or selling, isn't it?
He's dropping massively. So he was over.
He's going down so quick. I
He's on
can't believe how
now. Yeah.
price.
Yeah.
He's already gone down once, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's sold by over 1,100,000 managers. But I see that as opportunity because then that means I can have him in weeks where I don't captain him, and he will be below 100% EO in those weeks. And if I'm thinking of fading West Ham, I'd rather own Antonio and maybe sell Benrahma now for like a Rafinha with the fixture swing, maybe a Pepe if I want to punt. But I'm either going to kind of save a transfer or maybe turn Benrahma into one of those two. I personally won't be selling Antonio, but if I was on wildcard, you might want to get ahead of the curve and buy him back later.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think if I was wildcarding, I probably wouldn't pick him. But at the same time, he's probably not worth selling, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
What do you guys think about this? So we talked about Decore a few times on the show, actually. But it's from Hurda Rafi. For the podcast listeners, they say, am I the only one thinking about Decore? So they're kind of saying, Benitez has let him off the leash a bit. With Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison, they do kind of drift to the wing sometimes. And I think Townsend and Gray saying are staying in the wings. So why don't you talk about this one, Gabe? Because we actually in July kind of said Decore would potentially be a good pick, right?
Yeah, back in July we were talking about Decore. Thanks to our friends, basically the super fan correspondents are just like random friends of ours. We have at FPL_Tornado and at Prem Tipster who helped us out with the kind of Everton analysis. And they told us that Decore could be getting in advanced positions if the defensive midfielder, so in this case Alan, could hold that defense. Now, what they mentioned was that in order for Everton to hold that kind of area of the field, that they would probably need a Gubaman to come in and help out, and that would release Decore. But it turns out that Alan is doing a great job by himself, and he's therefore able to release, Gray and Decore, just depending on which side the play is coming from. I think mostly it'll be the plays are set up like we talked about for Gray on the left hand side, but you can't just do one thing, right? So that's why Decore has been getting those opportunities, because as the teams shift to their right to cover Everton's left, then that opens up spots for Decore to make late runs from in behind players like Iwobi and or Townsend and Calvert-Lewin.
That's very interesting. I guess I wanted to put that up. They said please do treat their questions. So I hope that gives you some confidence in that Decore pick. Nick, I want to do something. So they're all talking about Nick versus the prick part.
I've just seen that.
So and obviously we're talking about will Gray outscore Nick again, and so I think if you don't mind, Nick, I'll let you have a second to have a drink. I've actually managed to download the clip that Elite FPL created earlier through a @sendmethis-video Twitter bot. I then put that up into StreamYard in the background, and because I have internet issues, what I'm going to ask you, Gabe, while we take a 30-second breather to show any listeners who missed this episode, go back and watch Nick's interview. It's very kind of to be here twice, but one of the best managers in the world. Obviously, we're not showing it today, but in a spell of 5 years, was it 2010 to 2015? Nick's lowest rank was 1,700 in the world, and the other 4 seasons were top 1K, including like 35th. So I don't think at any time ever again there will be a manager to be as successful as Nick was in that period. And it's incredible. So we'll obviously send a link to everyone who's watching and listening to his YouTube channel after, but we're going to show this clip. And Gabe, I'm going to ask you to play it so I don't crash. When you get to brand, there should now be a video underneath Twat Pick Game Week 4 called Nick. I reckon just give that little play while we all have a bit of water. And when we come back, we'll take any final questions that have come in while we relive this moment, Nick.
I'm not seeing it.
Maybe it's only on mine because I've just uploaded it. And, let me press play. If I lag behind, you carry on talking because I might not be here when we come back.
Okay.
That's devastating.
Make some pulp.
BetLiveFPL.net is going to crash. Let's have a look. Oh, wow. The average and the safety score have gone way up.
Having
not even
DCL out and then having that prick grey score, it's just like it's ruined my fucking day, though. You know, you get
It's ruined my day too, to be fair.
all 10 midfielders blank, don't they? And you just know that fucking Gray's going to come along and fuck up your game week.
On a Monday night.
Except all the pricks on Twitter who've all got him. That's only people you were. 99% of people posting on Twitter tonight will have him.
All the
rest will have turned off.
Or Gameweek.
Look, Hibbo, his eyes.
He's got tears. You know,
he's out wiping his eyes, trying to dry all the tears.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
So no, I don't mind him scoring now. He can score next week. It doesn't bother me. It's just having DCL not start and then seeing that. It's just like rubbing it in.
We've got Donny saying if Carlsberg did live stream ramps, this would be it, Nick. We've got this clip should get an Oscar. We've got one.
Acting.
Yeah, that's the best part, I think. It's so authentic. So we've got
like
FPL 7
Nick versus Prick Part 2. I like that.
They're saying that this single video clip has given Gray a price rise.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna make a Twitter thread about buying Gray, and I'm gonna start it with that video.
We gotta tag Damari Gray.
We have to tag him. You're gonna get blocked by him, but it's okay. No, so Nick, what we'll do is we'll get this last question in for FPL 7 minutes before we let you. I don't know. I was going to say go back to your night, but it's more like your morning.
His day's about to start, and I have to pick up my kids from school in about 5 minutes.
I'm hoping the phone doesn't go. They'll be phoning me up asking me to work today. I'm hoping they don't, but I can sense it.
Oh no! So what do you think about this from FPL 7 minutes? Do you bench or sell Antonio if they only have Ronaldo and Antonio? So they're asking this. Lots of people in live chat do 4-5-1 in the same scenario. What would you do in this scenario?
It's very difficult to know, isn't it? I'm not sure any of us know, to be honest. I think it's very 50-50. I mean, you could take him out and get Bamford, who then might not even start or go off early, or he could get a hat trick. You just don't know, do you? And then, or you could get Jimenez or Jimenez. Same again. He's kind of still a bit of a cloud around him. Or you could keep Antonio, watch his price drop, and then he comes back and gets a couple of blanks, and you think, why the fuck did I keep him? You know, so who knows?
On that note, Robert Ducky has said like they're not chasing team value, so they're obviously one of the benchers like me, and they're saying, well, actually, like if he does score though, then his price will just go back up too.
Yeah, exactly.
But the people who sold him, they'll regret it. So we don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly. He plays Brentford, I think, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's got Leeds as well. Yeah, he's got a couple of decent fixtures.
Yeah, he's got kind of a mixture of tough and easy, hasn't he? So if he keeps his form, you could regret selling him, couldn't you? Or you could regret keeping him too. So it's a difficult one. Luckily, because of DCL, I've got no choice now because it's taken that choice away from me, which is I like that, not having to choose.
It's better. The less variables you have each week, the less likely you are to sell someone who returns.
So it's a bloody tough decision, that one, whether to keep or sell.
What about Ben Rama to Gallagher? Is this viable? So is it overthinking it to kind of go for last week's top scoring budget midfielder the week after? And I always say it feels like chasing last week's points. Like his fixture turn eventually, but surely not yet.
Yeah, well, I wanted to take him out this week. If I didn't have any problems, Ben Rama was going to be my transfer out.
Would he be ahead of Antonio?
Yeah, I would have kept Antonio. Actually, I've seen some people doing, which is really good. What they're doing is they're keeping Antonio and benching him, and they're turning Ben Rama into Rafinha instead.
I think if they can find the 1 million
rather than getting Bamford, they're
I prefer to spend 6.5 on the Leeds attack from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, exactly. And they're about the same price, aren't they, Ben Rama and
yeah, so actually Ben Rama's 6 million. He's risen to 6.4, I think. So you might be able to sell
I think that's a bloody good move. If you haven't got Rafinha, just swapping Ben Rama to Rafinha, benching
Antonio.
Antonio, and
But
then
it
you don't
depends
have
on
to
your
worry
replacement, right?
if Leeds do really good. There's a good chance you're still going to get points from Rafinha out.
Depends on your bench player, though, Nick. Right? So some people might have like a Omo Bombardelli and not like an Ailing coming off the bench or a White. So
True. Most people should have somebody, shouldn't they?
a lot of people have Livramento though, and he's playing City, I think, this week.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So that's
true.
forcing their hand a bit. Okay,
So a lot of people don't have a bench, do they? Really?
It sounds like that. We'll let you go soon. There's one more. Would you ship out Kufal or Eiling for Semedo? I don't know what you think, Nick, but I always take the view that you can't really predict clean sheets, and you're more likely to sell someone. Like, that's why I don't rotate goalkeepers, because what if I bench the goalkeeper in hard games and he scores, right?
Falmer, right? No, because their fixtures are going downhill. They've got Europa League, etc. I think Ailing they're like in different brackets, aren't they? Ailing's cheaper than Semedo. They're not like a like for like. And it'd be a bit silly to sell Ailing now, I think.
I think so.
Because some Leeds might turn out to be okay. Someone in the chat said I should rename my cat Grey, because my cat is grey. I thought that was funny.
All right, Nick. So
does it really matter what you name your cat? It's not like cats respond anyway, right?
Now she's going to remind me of bloody Grey every time I look at her now. Put that idea in my head.
Guys, so I think we do have to go soon. I don't know, Gabe. Do you need to go? Yeah, and
I need to go. I could maybe do that one more.
Which question should we? Do you want to pick one last one? There's a Mbuemo question.
No, not that.
Should I
one.
drop
No,
Torres and Jota?
I can stay for a bit if you want. If you want to carry on.
Okay. Do you want to say the thing is? I think I'm hosting the broadcast, right?
Yeah, my worry is that
okay.
I've been having the lagging issues. If I click end broadcast, what if it doesn't work? So we'll all go out together. But
we'll go together. It's who to drop between. This is from Shaz. Who to drop between Torres and Jota as long-term option, as I am on wildcard to get Lukaku and Ronaldo up front.
I don't think either of them are long-term options, though, are they? That's the thing.
So we basically
I dropped Torres. I dropped Torres now rather than Jota.
Yeah. Because Firmino's still out for the next couple of matches, and it's good matchup, so keep Jota.
Yeah, he's got the most potential. He's the one that scares me the most anyway, not having either of them.
Yeah. One more sneaking it in here from Aman Khan. Is Saint-Maximin, just so I could say Saint-Maximin, being overlooked?
He's done all right, hasn't he, for the price?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's just one of many, isn't he?
If he was 0.5 cheaper, he would be a strong option. At 6.5 as a forward.
Is he 6.5? Is he?
No, that's too much. Forward.
That's too much. He should be 5.5, shouldn't he?
Yeah, 5.5 or 6. I think that'll do it.
This is what I mean. They don't make the prices competitive enough. So there's so many players you don't want because they're like just a bit too expensive all the time.
I like what you said, that every player should be a consideration. They should make every player is a consideration. You have to think about all of them.
They should make them an attractive price. You know, like I was saying with Mane, if he was 10 million, people would consider him. But no one's going to pay 12 million for Mane when Salah's only a tiny bit more expensive.
Yeah, gotta love Mike Halpin.
Is he 12 million?
So this is a nice way to see us out. It's a long live King Grey.
Long live King Grey. So Nick is being trolled by his cat, Damari Gray.
Nice one. All right, let's we'll end the broadcast with the stop, I think. If you play that, and then we can end it, and we'll then let you run and get the kids, and Nick and I can hopefully see what happens with this roundtable planning next.
We're doing some planning, are we? We're doing some planning for the round table, are we?
Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Nick, you've been a legend. I can't believe you've basically been up all night with me because we had the first gap for the first half hour. So we've been on here for almost 3 hours with Nick, his second show of the week. Legend. I appreciate it so much. It's been great, man. It's been great fun and really great knowing you.
Okay, cheers. I really enjoyed it, so
same here, man.
Any time. And good luck, everybody. And don't get grey, because you'll regret it in the end. You might have done well. You might have done well last week, but you won't be laughing soon.
4 shots, 4 goals.
I'll have the last laugh.
Is it 4 shots or 3 shots? He's had 3 shots, 3 goals, or 4 shots, 4 goals.
It'll be 4 by next week, I expect, won't it?
All right. Well, thank you for having us, Nick. Where can people find you on Twitter?
Just generally, what is it? Nick
At Nick Triggerlips.
At Nick Triggerlips, yeah, that's
Nice.
the one.
And YouTube. Check his.
I've got a YouTube channel. What's that one called? Nick Trigger Talks FPL, I think.
Nice. Trigger Talks FPL. We'll put a link to it.
It's in my Twitter link anyway.
Nice.
I'm sure
Lovely
you will
to see you
find
guys.
All right.
We will definitely do this again soon.